Good morning, everyone. Good evening. This is Luda Kopikina with GAI Insights, where we rate news essential, important, and optional, saving you time in your day. Today, I have Adam, Tim, Ankaj, and John in the train with some difficulty in audio. So we might not hear him, but we will try. So today we have a number of articles. You can follow along at gaiinsights.com/articles. So let's start with the first one. Ankash, please.
Thanks, Luda. So the first one that we have for today is about Grok 3 and how it is the smartest AI on Earth.
Yeah, Adam, you were so excited about that. I'll let you introduce this and tell us what you thought.
Yeah, sure, Luda. Thanks. I'll quote Elon Musk as it says at the top there. People are 1,000% likely to fall in love with it. So here we go. Look, they did a live stream today. They did some demos of some prompts around writing code to do some things like calculating the path of a spaceship from Earth to Mars and then modeling that, and some cool little demos. But mostly what I'm excited about is the potential of having a reasoning model that's tapped into X as a platform and all of that data that's going through it, as well as that's tapped into the internet, as well as that enables file uploads, which is something pretty significant that the other reasoning models don't offer yet. So in some ways they have an edge in terms of the capabilities of it as well. But so Grok 3, there's a reasoning, as it says there, and then a mini reasoning. And this is competing with DeepSeek and OpenAI's O1 and O3 and all these models out here. I think Grok's one of the first ones I've seen that really does what they're talking about doing with GPT-5, of that convergence of the reasoning model with the GPT and the utility of all the different tools and capabilities. So it's exciting. There's no API, so that has pretty limited scope at this point in terms of the enterprise applications. You can see from some of the benchmarks in terms of how it performs against the other leading models, it's right up there, and they will continue to improve it. They said, if you go to grok.com and use the website, that will always be the most up-to-date, most advanced version of Grok, and that they expect basically daily, like over the next week, that you will continue to see it get smarter. And that's one of the things that test time compute enables, right? They spent all this money, did this massive time training this model, but they can continue to make it better now, which is significant. All that being said, given that the scope is limited at this point in terms of who it's available to, and needing a paid subscription with X to get access to it, and that there's no API, I'm actually leaning towards optional news. Possibly important to know that they are a serious player in the space, but I hope people are aware of that if they weren't already. So probably between optional and important.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts? Optional, important, Tim?
I think, yeah, I'm sort of the same place. I'm less impressed. If anything, the big message here is that the scaling laws are in fact becoming asymptotic. This has so much more compute power, and it's marginally better than the existing products, marginally better. And both OpenAI, we believe, and Anthropic are going to come out with new products in the very near future. And it's an arms race, which is what we said from the beginning. So it's interesting, but not earth-shattering. As Adam pointed out, it has a number of good features. They have gotten into a top tier position in a very short period of time, so kudos on that front. But it's not like they're blowing anybody away. They're just incrementally slightly better right now. And so all of the top models are about the same place. And I think for the reason I can lean towards optional is most people don't even know it exists. And in most corporate settings, it's not going to be that important. They're not going to use something from X.
I see. Okay.
It's just not an enterprise provider. But I would probably lean myself towards important because it is a big deal from the perspective of these are major models to know about. And the fact that they've done it in such a short period of time is another indicator of where the market is going, that these are going to be basically arms race things and commoditized pretty quickly. And that they're not getting super much better with lots more compute.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks,
and
Jim.
I forgot to add one thing. Sorry, that they are coming out in the very near future, a week or two, with the voice capability, and Elon Musk has already said that's going to be integrated into their Teslas as well.
Right.
So there's an interesting thought in terms of the convergence
because
between the products.
That's a catch up because OpenAI already has really good voice, had it for a long time. So again, good. It's not that it's bad; it's good, but nothing earth shattering.
Okay, I was leaning to important because it's a player coming in at the top of the thinking and convergence of the thinking and regular chat LLMs. So it's I think important, if not essential, for the. So Paul, John, any thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to rate this essential because look, if you're an AI leader, you can't not know about this, and I bet also it's going to improve a lot. The other thing is Musk is going to. I think everybody's going to know about it because it's coming out of Musk.
Hard to hear you, John.
Okay.
Yeah, he's on the train. So
yeah, I'll type it in the thing.
Okay, so John is voting for essential on the grounds that that people absolutely need to know about it, and it will get better. Paul.
Yeah, I'm on essential for slightly different reasons here. When OpenAI 3.5 came out, we were blown away. A company got the 4 billion revenue in 3 years with closed model, proprietary software, best in class, no competition anywhere close. And in the last 6 months, we've seen the barriers to entry to advanced models are pretty low. So DeepSeek has impressed the world. Now we've got within 6 to 9 months, Grok 3 here. We got Iliad sitting on $1 billion fund on his new startup. There's probably 2 or 3 over there here. So I think from an AI leader, this is another indication that the massive innovation is coming because barriers to entry are low. It's breathtaking that Musk in 18 months can come out with a model that's closed, that's as good or nearly as good. And we can debate the fine points on OpenAI. And if you're an AI leader, you really got to think through, which models you're betting on and making sure you actually have a vendor that has lots of flexibility to switch and choose. So making your whole thing on Cohere for the next 18 months or Inflection or even OpenAI, I think is really risky. So I think from a low barriers to entry data point, this is essential for AI leader.
Yeah, so the commoditization of the models underneath the your applications is the important point here. Okay, so essential it is. Let's proceed, Ankaj.
Next one comes from VentureBeat, and it talks about how Replit and Anthropic's AI has helped Zillow build production software without a single engineer.
Yeah, it reads a little bit as a paid article for Replit. It doesn't have much technical description except for they used the Cohere and they put it on the Google Cloud, right? And that's pretty much it. And they
Anthropic, I think.
Oh, Anthropic, right? And they could actually build the applications. The marketing team can build applications, and there are examples of what they built. So this is great. I was for the no code angle. I think it's important to put it out for AI leaders, but it's a little light for me, and that's why I was kind of in between optional and important. So thoughts, Adam? Okay, Tim, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I think I could support important. I mean, I feel in a way we're starting to beat our audience over the head about this concept of the citizen developer, but I also don't know whether they're getting the message yet. And this is very high profile, right? A lot of people know about Zillow. They certainly know about Anthropic, but they might not know about Replit, right? And to see some of the testimonials, if you scroll down just a teeny bit, Ankaj, there's posts from people who are like, I'm a English and psychology grad, so the fact that I can do what would be 5 to 10 grand in consultant costs just by chatting with Claude to build internal systems is blowing my mind. Right. And I think this article does a decent job of painting that picture and really helping illustrate what's possible here.
And you use Replit, right? So from
I use it every day. Yeah.
Every day, right? So Replit is not an easy. I haven't used it much, but it's not an easy application, right?
No, not. It's no code, but it is not. It's not as user friendly for actually getting the outcome you want. Yeah, it's still a challenge. That's why I use it every day, so I can learn it.
Okay, Tim, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I think I'm at least important, and I can even make the argument for essential. You can say we're beating people over the head about this. I think they need to be beaten over the head about this. This is hugely important. And the fact that they got several quotes from people who are completely non-technical, they're not like power users. These are marketing people, people who have, I mean, to your point, they probably have some back pocket, let me use that term again, technical capability, because as you said, Replit isn't for the faint of heart in general. But nevertheless, whatever they've put together here has worked well enough that completely non-technical people are getting things done without writing a line of code. That's a huge line in the sand. It's the ability for this to spread virally is potentially enormous. And that's a transformation of organizations when suddenly everybody can develop applications.
Yeah, except when they get to Replit, they probably will not be able to navigate. Paul, what did you think?
Yeah, I'm with Tim. I mean, I think two things. The shadow IT is out of control, and AI leaders and companies don't understand just the use with it with just the B2C ones here. This only amplifies that, so it just means that there's more and more code out there for people like Tim. I was playing with Replit on Friday. I'm not a coder. It's not bad. I know 3 small companies now are using it here. To do something. It really struggles to the last mile, but boy, you can see where it's going. So this whole idea that we need to ensure that we have a security infrastructure around all our human-based knowledge workers using all these AI tools and citizen coding tools, I think is really important in companies here because it is out of control. And I think it's only going to increase because the usage is going up here. So I think there's a blind spot, and I would love to have a CISO tell me I'm nuts.
Well, but Paul, what in this particular case, they used Google infrastructure to actually protect it. So I was wondering, that's why it's not, it doesn't have any technical detail. Somebody did build them, the guardrails, right, on Google before they started putting those applications out. So that's why it was confusing. But I think I hear your message, guys. John, essential. Important? Important. Why?
Well, I think what's notable about this, this is an application that got done. I know we've been debating the merits of the technology and the merits of it, but there's so few kind of use cases of something actually getting in production.
Okay, John, important. Why? Not essential.
I think that for the reasons you said, I'd like to see a little more technical depth or whatever. I could support essential because I come at it a little differently than what Paul was talking about. Shadow IT being out of control. I look at the other way. IT has been a roadblock for a lot of time for many years in terms of knowledge worker productivity, and I think this will unlock all that potential.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and Tim mentioned that as well. Okay, essential it is. For the reason that it gives the power to the regular marketing person with no coding experience. So that's great. And it opens up a blind spot, but it will be fixed, hopefully. So let's proceed, Ankash.
The next one comes from Abridge. So Abridge has announced a new $250 million Series D investment round, and it has also launched a new contextual reasoning engine.
Yes. Tim, what did you think about this company?
Well, I think if you're in healthcare, clinical healthcare especially, this is essential. I think for everybody else, I would probably say optional. You could argue for important because clinical documentation is a complex task, and they've made a lot of progress. Abridge is the leader, I would say, right now in these what they call ambient listening capabilities, taking notes from doctor and patient interactions and things like that. And they've beefed it up in notable ways to help some important things, but they're quite specific to clinical healthcare. So the biggest thing that they've done probably is made the documentation better and more precise for billing purposes, because that's ultimately what this is all about. It's kind of a sad point about our medical system at one level, but it's true. And a lot of bills get delayed or kicked back and rejected because the documentation isn't quite right. And so they've now put more capability into their LLM capability to enable better documentation and more success in billing. It's got other things as well, but again, all pretty specific to clinical healthcare.
Okay, so the vote for optional for the general leader, Paul? Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, optional. I think there's another one where it's essential for people in the particular vertical, but optional for everyone else here.
Okay. Adam, agree? Okay.
Yep.
John, okay? Yeah, optional it is. Let's proceed, Ankash.
Next one comes from Google, and it talks about agentic AI with Gemma.
Yes, Adam, it's an interesting demonstration of how you can use Gemma with examples and the like. What did you think?
I think it's optional. For one, it's a little too deep into the structure and the coding of how you might put it together. I know it's Google and it's AI Studio, so I might be able to be argued up to important, but in some ways it feels a little bit like catching up. Like there wasn't anything really innovative. The article mostly just illustrated some basic examples of what you can already do with agentic frameworks. Basically, just how to do it with their agents instead of someone else's, and that there weren't any real like use cases per se, more just examples of ways it could be used. So it felt a bit light to me, actually, in spite of it going down into some of the real specific technical detail about the exact ways to call things and how to prompt it. And yeah, it just seemed to be lacking for me. So I thought it was an optional read.
Okay, optional, everyone.
Optional.
Yeah, and just to help clarify everyone, so Gemini's there's large language model family. Gemma's their small models, I believe, right, Adam? And I believe Gemma are open source.
Correct.
And Gemini are closed source. Is that?
Well, and they're much smaller. This is a 27 billion parameter model they were mostly talking about. The other thing is, if you know, you literally have to know the exact syntax and function call you're interested in to get something done. It's like, well, if I know that, how much work are you saving me? Okay. I mean,
Yeah,
you got to be a programmer to even get close to this stuff. If you have to,
you're basically writing code at that point.
Yeah.
Right. The reason I put it as optional is because as they went along, they actually highlighted lots of limitations and the need for programming skills. So this is kind of in the weeds. That's why I thought it was optional.
Yeah, it's hard to even call it agentic. Again, it's the definitional
it's like
problem.
You're programming. Okay, optional it is. Vivek agrees with you, Tim, that he is in Pfizer, so he certainly says that the prior article is for the healthcare and pharma is hugely important.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, but let's proceed to the next article, Ankash, please.
So the next one comes from Mistral, and they have introduced Saba, which is a multilingual language model.
Yeah, it's this was assigned to me. Mistral, as you all know, is in France and the leading provider of LLMs in Europe and the world. But we haven't been hearing about this because the performance is not as up to par with everybody else. It's a very smart move They focused a number of models on specific areas of Southeast Asia and Middle East. And those, what we're showing on the screen is Arabic languages that is very smart to, and they really trained it to cultural context and whatnot. So this is smart distribution move from Mistral, but optional in my view. Anybody has other opinions?
No, I think it's interesting. This is going to, further the debate of, are small focus models the way of the future, or are these really smart general models the way of the future? And I don't think that's settled yet. But I do agree it's a smart move on their part, because if you get the cultural context right, even more than just having a small model that is smart about a particular language, what they talk about, we'll see if it's true. That's another reason it's optional. They don't have a lot of proof points yet. But if you get the cultural nuance right, you'll build a lot of trust and engagement in a hurry. That is a big deal. And brands will benefit from that and use it. And
correct.
Not necessarily good, by the way, to just absolutely trust a robot, but we are human, and that's what we tend to do. If it talks like us and it understands a little bit of nuance and culture, we assume it understands everything else.
Yeah. Paul, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I want these guys to win. I think, though, that innovation at the R&D level without distribution doesn't mean anything in this market. And yet again, these guys are really innovative. They're talking about the benchmarks. I don't see a single customer here. So I fear 2 years from now, we will not be talking about Mistral at all, because they do not have distribution. And this game is big and large. And so they're definitely optional, but Mistral, come on, get some distribution.
But that's
by the way, being listed in somebody's marketplace is not distribution.
Well, but they have something to offer that is different from others. So we wish them luck, but optional, right? Okay, let's proceed, Ankash.
So the last one that we have for today is a research paper which talks about meeting delegate, benchmarking LLMs on attending meetings on our behalf.
Yes, an interesting paper that actually simulated how you can send a delegate to a meeting. Wouldn't it be lovely? Tim, what did you think?
I think it's interesting. This is optional in general. If you're interested in this kind of stuff, it's worth a read. I'm glad somebody's doing something in this area, but what it really points, there are two issues. One is we don't even know how to think about this and frame the experiments and evaluate them. So there's just, you can go into methods and just, argue right there. Like they're using LLMs to evaluate their LLM performance. How do we know how good that is? They've made up all their evaluation criteria. So they did their work and read other things, but this is a new area. And the results point out just how far we are. This is a real agent, right? If you could send somebody in your place to a complex meeting, that's what I would call an agent, okay? A lieutenant, something that's really valuable. And the best results they got were mildly above 50%, which I don't know, because again, what does that mean? But my gut reaction is that's not above threshold. To send a delegate, not even close, really. And these are with the best models. So we'll see. They didn't use O1, I don't think, or the reasoning model. So maybe there'll be a big jump up if they did something like that. But I'm glad they're doing it, because somebody's at least putting a stake in the ground saying, hey, we probably should think about this stuff. And nobody's thinking about this. They're just claiming it, right? So I'm glad to see it, but it's optional for the general reader.
Yeah, I agree it's optional, but it's fascinating, and I think they've made great advances on structuring the evaluator, structuring the levels of participation in meetings and what the data needs to be. So a lot of structuring.
Right,
Adam?
we don't know if that really reflects the key issue from my perspective is, what I call above threshold, right? In other words, the Turing test kind of thing almost, right? Do you care if my delegate or me is at the meeting. Hopefully you care a little bit, but maybe not too much, right?
Yeah.
And that's hard to tell. They've got nice parameters and everything, but it's hard to tell if any of that adds up to, is it really above threshold?
Yeah. No, I'm with you on optional, but I really think that this is a pushing forward in this area.
Yeah,
Paul,
yeah.
what
Yeah,
did
I'm like on the yeah, I'm definitely optional. I'm in the I think I had too much coffee this morning to drink. This to me is just with AGI. This is such a freaking waste of time. This whole, because it comes from the notion that I want a robot to do all the work, and we play all this time here. I want it just to code. I want it to summarize the article, and that's what people get so excited about meeting summaries. 99% of meeting summaries I see stink. They don't capture the actual essence of it. So to think that we can't even do a meeting summary correctly, now we're going to have a robot, it's such a waste of. How about this? I'd like to have a meeting summary where we can at least get the action items correctly captured and stuck somewhere. So I think this is this whole nirvana that we're going to have robots be doing 100% of our work with 100% veracity and thing is just ludicrous and a waste of time in this moment right now.
You know,
I
it's
think
interesting.
the operative word, what you just said, is in this moment right now. I think we're not ready. I think the level of sophistication needs to go up before we can
Correct.
delegate. Right. You are, in that sense, you're right. But it is, you need to start structuring, and that's what they're doing. So applaud to them. And it comes from Microsoft. So I think that's the right place. Adam, thoughts?
Oh, I was just going to riff off what Paul was saying. Like it's naive of people to think that the robot's just going to do it all the thinking for them, right? But of course, it's natural to do. But working hand in hand with the robot is actually the way forward. And like what I've been finding with Copilot within my work is rather than just having our conversation, then expecting it to figure out what the action items are, be aware of the fact that it's going to read the transcript and be really clear about when you want it to take a note of something that's an action item. Yeah. And then it works a whole lot better. But you have to start thinking about that relationship with it rather than just tacking it on and expecting it to do a job.
Adam,
it's the training.
Just to keep riffing here, this talented team that did this, how about this? Figure out a way for the robot to listen to real time during a meeting so we can ask them in the meeting, given the conversation you've heard to date, and have them as a co-participant in the meeting here. That's something would actually be useful, and I think that is doable in this moment of time. And that would be a contributor to this thing, rather than saying, I want a robot that gets rid of all my work here, and I'm going to spend, anyway, I'm broken record on this.
Okay, John, any thoughts? You've been, any thoughts, or you're?
No, I'll give it an option.
Oh, no, we can't hear you, sorry. The sound doesn't come through. Yeah, optional. Okay, all right. Optional it is, but fascinating, huh? So Ankash is showing the board. So we have 2 essential and the rest are optional. Okay, that sounds like a great conclusion of our day today. Thank you all. Yes, Paul, there's an announcement.
We had a really good learning lab last night. Learning lab is our weekly discussion meeting from 7 to 8, a company called Bright Light. One of the things that they taught me, which I hadn't internalized before, they work with brands, seeing how brands help with consumer behavior as moving into this LLM-based world. Consumers are spending twice as much time in the LLMs looking for products and everything else versus the Google. So if the advertising model is part of what this, so that was one. The second takeaway, his stat was most people when they search for products put, what was it, Tim, 6 or 8 words into
3
Google.
words with Google, 12 words with Bright Light.
With perplexity and Bright Light here. So this notion
yeah.
that the LLM based shopping and product discovery experience is way more intense from a buyer intent and time period really bodes well for a radical change in marketing and certainly advertising model here. So expect a lot more innovation, even more innovation in that space. And that recording will be up online later this week in our YouTube channel.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you all. Thank you, Ankash, for sourcing these wonderful articles. And we thank our participants, Vivek and all. Thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow.
Subscribe and like on YouTube.
Yeah, like us, please. Okay, see you tomorrow.